would love to hear about your friendship with Mary Kay Bergman.
Oh, yes. Oh, she was one of my dearest friends and my teacher, my first voiceover teacher. And she was just so encouraging and wonderful. And I wasn't on anything when I first took a class with her. I had just gotten out of theater school, and I was just fresh and wide-eyed, and she was the most nurturing, wonderful teacher. So when I actually ended up getting roles, it was so exciting because I got to be working with my teacher. And actually, Fairly Odd Parents, she was the first Timmy Turner. And I remember her also, she was in The Iron Giant. She played a lot of the character, a lot of the parts that the boy wasn't able to do. And then she also was Mrs. Cartman. So she got nominated for an Emmy against herself because the boy in Iron Giant got nominated for her performance pretty much. I mean, not taking away from his performance. I'm sure he was wonderful too, but she did all the really challenging acting stuff for that kid. So she was sort of like against herself. I just thought she was just so extraordinary. And she taught me how to voice match things, even though I'm sort of a lazy actor. I'm always like, it'll work out. We'll be fine. We'll just wing it. But she would, she had like this wonderful formula for it. And a funny story, she loved the Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride at Disneyland. And I got called back to replay, to be the voice of Pirate Red. And I was at the callback, and I was at Disney Character Animation. I was like, oh, Mary Kay, because she was the voice of Snow White. So I was like, this was your place. You were always here. What advice would you give me? I'm just talking to her in my head. And I felt her like telling me, like, you need to prepare more, like get prepared. But I was thinking, prepare more. I've only got one line. It really was one line for this pirate. And so I was like, well, I guess I could prepare. She was always so prepared. And I thought, well, maybe I'll learn some pirate slang or something. So I went on the internet and started learning all this pirate stuff because I was waiting. I might as well learn something. I went in there and they're like, it's only one line. So we're just going to have you improv for, 30 minutes. 30 minutes of pirate improv. I was like, thank goodness Mary Kay had me do that, because I knew all kinds of pirate slang. I was like, I was calling eggs cackle fruit and all this stuff, and they're like, wow, you know a lot about pirates. And I was like, yeah, it's just a curse. Yeah, I've always been really into pirates. Really, I wasn't. And so I booked the role. And the day that I called Dino Andrade, who's actually at DragonCon today, he was her husband. And we became very good friends. And we always, every time, like the anniversary of her passing or whatever, we check in with each other, or her birthday or things. And so I called him to tell him I got that part. And he goes, well, it's the anniversary of Mary Kay's passing today, the day that I found out about it. So I just felt like, I always feel like she's my little guardian angel, my little red-haired guardian angel. So yeah. Yeah. And I went into this, I'm going to come off really unstable in this interview, but I went to a psychic once, and he was a medium, and he goes, there's a woman here who does the same weird job. I don't know what job you do, but she had that job and I was like, okay, I was thinking, oh my God, Mary Kay. And he goes, yeah. And she's in my mind, I'm seeing her hand you this little plant, and in your hands, you take it. And in your hands, I'm watching it grow into this big plant. Do you understand that? And I was like, yes, I understand that. And he's like, she just wanted to say how proud she is of you, and that she, she's with you all the time. And I was like, oh my God. And he said, there's another lady here who's got a really weird name, like Shushi or Shishi. Well, Rusi Taylor had just passed away. And he said, and they were friends on the earth, and so he said, they're together there and they are so happy for you. And this person with the Shishi name, she says you're going to do the same thing for her. What you did for this other woman, you're going to do for her. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, because she had just passed, and I loved her so much too. They're just both such wonderful women. And I hadn't even auditioned for anything that Rusi had done, but the voice of Martin Prince on The Simpsons came through. And I was like, I read for it and I got it. So now when I do, it's been a few years now, but I've been doing these. Usually Martin Prince only has a couple lines here or there, but there was one episode where he had this huge character arc where there was an Outward Bound thing where all the boys were being punished. The episode's called Boys in the Highlands, and it's really cool. But Martin has this mental breakdown. He's on all these medications, and you really get the backstory on Martin. And I was scared because I'm only used to doing 2 lines, and so I was like, Rusi, be with me. What would you do? How should I do this? And I really felt Mary Kay and Rusi, my little angels on my shoulders, just getting me through that. So anyway, it was a really remarkable time. And that guy couldn't have looked that up on the internet or anything. I didn't even audition for that. So anyway, it's very strange. Yes, yeah.
I love it.
We're not alone.
Steve, can you talk a bit about switching your careers?
Yes.
Talk a bit about working with Deke Dickerson.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I have 2 lives. I've been giving people stickers at this thing that have my Spotify. You can scan it and it's got my Spotify on it. And because I in my spare time, which I don't have a lot of, I have 3 kids and I'm a single mom, but in my spare time, I write classic country music. Like it's sort of like Tammy Wynette, Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton, that kind of stuff. There's some stuff that's got a little bit of a rock and roll, like rockabilly kind of edge to it. But I just played The Lonesome Rose, and my dear friend here was here. She was in the show, and she's good friends with my partner, my music partner, Eddie Clendenning, and Deke Dickerson. She's known him. They produced my last record, and so I every time I do a panel, people are like, is there any parting words? And I'm like, follow me on Spotify, please. I was like, I mean, it seems to be the only thing that like I was like, I'm not even going to be on Spotify, and then my manager was like, you are. And I was like, well, Joni Mitchell's on Spotify. And he's like, you're not Joni Mitchell. So anyway, so now I'm always like, please follow me on Spotify. But it's good I write new songs every week and I put new songs out every week. So you'll like, it's like Linda Ronstadt kind of,
But who would you say are some of your biggest musical influences for your writing or your singing style?
Well, my favorite songwriter, Tom T. Hall, is one of my favorite songs. I love a story song. And of course, Dolly, I just went to Dollywood and all my friends were just indulging me all day. Because nothing is ever really my cup of tea. Like I go places and I'm not really that, because I have such a retro fashion sense or whatever. Usually things, I don't want a t-shirt, I don't want a picture. I'm like, I'm good. But there I was like, take a picture of me in Dolly's childhood home. Take a picture of me by this water well. Take a picture. I mean, it's just like, and they were just like, okay, she never asked for this, so we'll just take a picture. But yeah, Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton. And I love a story song. I grew up listening to the Carter Family, so Johnny Cash and June Carter. I play the auto harp like June Carter, and so I got to be on June Carter's tribute album that her son John did for her. And it's so funny because if you look at the list of credits, it's like Loretta Lynn, Chris Christopherson, like all these like huge Elvis Costello, like all these people, and then it's like Grey DeLisle. Like who the hell is that? Anchored in Love. I did Big Yellow Peaches, and yeah, but I really literally am the only person on there that you wouldn't recognize. Like everybody else is super recognizable, but I don't care. I'll just be the little sore thumb. Yeah, I know, the twerps. Yes. It was funny because I knew somebody who I did a tribute to Stephen Foster called Beautiful Dreamer. I did a song on there and it won a Grammy. And my old acting teacher, like from college, had that record. And he was like, I never noticed that you were one of the people on it, but we love that song. And he's like, we were driving one day and I picked up he's like, I was like, who is that does that song? And he's like, I picked up the thing and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Grey is on this record. And his husband was like, what? No, he isn't. And, no, she isn't. And anyway, they had a moment. He contacted me on Facebook. He's like, oh my God, we just realized you're on that record, Beautiful Dreamer.
I was like, when we met, I told him, it's like, I had no idea you were a voice actor.
I know, I love that. I love that.
I know you from music.
I love it. Thank you. Oh, you've just been my angel since that night. It's so funny. Eddie's like, well, you hit it off with all my friends. I was like, you have good friends. I love them. I always say, like, if you're talking to somebody that you want to talk a lot, ask them something that people don't normally, or ask them like about their weird little thing that only they like. There's one guy that I love and he loves model trains. And so every time I talk to him, I'm like, so model train, and he'll just talk to me for hours, and so somebody was like, what's your little thing? I was like, classic country music. So anyway, I saw a guy that said that his hat said F Nashville on it. And he was in the back. He was just there supporting his friend as his friend got an autograph. And I was like, hey, do you follow We Hate Pop Country on Facebook? He's like, you're damn straight I do. I was like, oh, let me give you a sticker. I was like, you might like my music. And so he's like, I'm going to look you up. So.
Yeah, I love Patsy.
Oh, yes.
Oh, to talk about the voice acting, sorry to break away. Now, I know probably nowadays you do a lot from home studios or a lot alone, but when you were in more of an ensemble, like a recording session with everyone else, were there times that were difficult to get through because either the giggles, someone was cracking jokes too much? Can you tell any of those stories being non-specific to the show?
Well, any of Butch Hartman's shows were hard to get through because he cast so many funny people and comedians and everything, and there were always John DiMaggio cracks me up, and Carlos Alazraqui. They're all like professional stand-up comics. Phil Lamar is hilarious, and yeah, we were always laughing on those shows. And also, I love to improv and just say lines that aren't even in there just to be funny. And so there were sometimes we're like, great, can we get one line just as written on the page, just once? And I was like, oh, all right, just once. But yeah, I do love to. Yeah, but I did a show with Amy Poehler And it's not on strike because it's actually an old show. It's not on there anymore. So I think I can talk about it, but it was called The Mighty Bee. And we would do a whole take as written, and then we would do one where she would go, you know what, let's just do all improv. And I loved working with people that love improv because you feel so free to do whatever you want. So yeah. Yeah.
Hey, great. My name is Alan Z.
Hi, Alan.
So I know you mentioned comedy. I know you do that as well. So I was wondering, how would you describe your comedy style? And do you incorporate any, I guess, like techniques that you've learned from voice acting into comedy or vice versa?
Oh, yes. I'm glad you asked because I have a stand-up special coming out September 7th. It's called Thruple. I always try to bring up newer comics that don't have the advantages because, I mean, this is a heck of a side gig, this cartoon thing. So I have a little bit of finances that I can help people with, and it helps me too. And it doesn't cost me anything. Like, I'm already renting the studio. I'm doing all the ads, and I'm doing, and the lighting, and hired the crew, and it feels silly and selfish to just have me be the only one up there. So I always pick 2 more comics so that I can have, so that I'm like, you're getting a special. And they share the time with me. So so it's coming out September 7th. It's mostly about my vagina. But it's so funny. People are like, oh, you're a vagina comic. I was like, no, have you seen any guys do stand-up? Everything's about theirs. So not their vagina. But anyway, so I mean, I do talk about it quite a bit, but it's a big part of my life. A big part. Anyway, but I do voices in it. I do the voice of my vagina.
She talks like this and she has a lisp and she's very cranky.
How did you find the voice for your vagina?
Well, one day I was in a bathroom stall and there was a lady next to me and she said, "Hi." And I said, "Hi." And she's like,
"What you doing?"
And I said, I'm just peeing, I guess. And she goes,
"Do you mind? I'm on the phone."
And so my friend goes, "You talked to the lady. Why didn't you answer her?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I said, I think that's how my vagina would sound if it had a voice. And then after that sort of took off. And in the special, I talk about how my vagina looks like an old library book because like the spine's all broken and the pages are all torn out. And, it's like, I was like, my kids used it and then like it got passed around to all my friends in college and it's just been through a lot.
Grey, love to see you again. We got to see you at MomoCon. Yes. You have impeccable fashion, and you even make your own jumpers. When are you possibly looking at releasing those jumpers to your fan base?
Well, I'm so protective of them that I'm like, don't copy me. And so I probably am not a very good at fashion design because I'm like, don't use this. But Vanessa Shaw is here. She was in Hocus Pocus, the beautiful blonde woman who I totally bonded with. We do all these things together on the weekends, and I just love her. But she's like, I love those jumpsuits. And I was like, you got to get one. So she got one. I said, but don't put patches on it like me, because that's my thing. Anyway, so she's wearing one. She wore one yesterday, a denim coverall suit. But it's just that this is with the kids and everything, I have such a hectic life. I'm like running a record label, raising 3 kids, doing cartoons during the week in my garage. And then every weekend I fly out on a Friday to do these. My kids are in private school. It's a big expense. I am doing this on my own. So packing was just, I hate packing even for fun things like Hawaii and stuff. I wait till the very last minute and then I'm like, oh God, and I throw a bunch of stuff in a bag and then I'm there going, I can't believe, why didn't I bring anything? It's just an endless cycle. So I thought I've got to make these coveralls. I'll put patches of all the shows that I do on them and I'll just make 4 pairs, so I can switch them out. But every weekend I just throw 3 of them in a bag and I'm packed. My makeup bag's all packed. I just throw that in there and I'm ready. So it was mostly a convenience thing, but people love them. So.
Did you ever get your luggage that they lost at TriffCon?
I finally got it, but of course, after I was completely done with the convention. I took pictures of people in the same outfit all 3 days of the convention, but I did have a lovely day in Chicago. I was stuck in Chicago for a day, and I was going to be mad because I was going to sleep at the airport and stuff and be like, oh, Chicago, But then I thought, hey, you're in one of the best cities in the world. Go get yourself a hotel and have a good time. And the funny thing is I was leaving, well, everybody got filled up all the hotels around the airport, like, cause we got let out at 3 a.m. They're like, you're not going anywhere tonight. We'll get you out tomorrow night. So it wasn't even the morning. It was like tomorrow, the next day at night. So I'm like, so I got in a cab, and this guy was like, I heard him on the phone going, oh man, this is going to be expensive. It's going to be $50 even just to get downtown. And I told him, hey, I'm going downtown. You can go with me in my cab. And he was like, really? Oh my God, thank you so much. So we split, we shared, I paid for the cab. And he said, oh, I'm going to stay with a friend nearby. So I was like, great. So he got out of the cab and he's like, let me give you $20. I was like, no, don't you dare. And he's like, no, let me just give you 20. You saved me 30, but please. And I was like, no. But as I was like walking into the revolving door of the hotel, he threw a $20 bill at me. And I was like, oh my God, So anyway, I have this $20 bill that was on top of my purse. So then I get there and the guy's like, we just sold the last room. I'm so sorry you came all the way. And I was like, are you serious? And it was at this point like 4 a.m. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And he goes, oh, and so then he's like, well, let me call around. So he starts calling around. And then I go, you're so sweet to do that. You didn't have to do that. And I said, here, I've got 20, because I had the $20 that was free $20. And I was like, here, I really appreciate it. And he's like, thank you. And he's like, you know what? There's people that rented a room and I don't think they're coming. It's 4 a.m. and they were supposed to be here at 3 yesterday. So I think, and I go, really? He's like, I don't think they're coming. So he's like, I'm going to give you their room. So he gave me their room, and it was this amazing room with this beautiful view. And then I was stuck in Chicago. So I was like, I'm going to have high tea at the Drake, which I've always wanted to do, but I never have time. It's like a 90-minute experience, and you can't just do part of it. You have to do the whole thing. So I was like, what else have I had to do? I got nothing to do in a great city. So I had high tea, and I wandered. It was a beautiful day. And the best part, Ray Benson from Asleep at the Wheel, this band Asleep at the Wheel, he and I are doing a project together. And he gave me these lyrics. He was like, if you can do something with this song, I will cut the song. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, the lyrics are, when you take the L out of lover, it's over. And I was like, that's a great lyric. So I was trying to say, Gray, I've tried for years. I can't think of the right thing for it. And I was trying, but I was in Chicago. I'm walking around and I see the L train. So I wrote this song called My Lover Took the L and Now It's Over. He hopped the CTA on New Year's Day. Union Station's freezing. There's no reason to stay sober. My lover took the L and now it's over. Anyway, so and it was a whole song about Chicago. We moved to Chicago, spring of 17. Anyway, it's a whole song about Chicago, but I wouldn't have seen that had I not been there. So Asleep at the Wheel is cutting my song. That's the most important thing.
Well, when is it getting released?
Oh gosh, I don't know, because Ray and I are working on this. I can't remember. I probably shouldn't say anything about that because we're waiting for the strike to be over before we can move forward on that. But Ray and I are doing a musical variety show together. So sort of like a Porter and Dolly. Yeah, it's going to be like, I have this giant wig. I got the wig maker that does Dolly Parton's wigs in England. She gave me this giant Bobby Gentry gorgeous wig. And I have these crazy dresses and I'm doing comedy and all kinds of stuff in it. So it's fun. It's going to be like Hee Haw meets Porter and Dolly.
So you were mentioning traveling around and doing these conventions so many weekends. What has been your most interesting fan interaction?
Oh man, there's so many. There's so many. One time somebody left a latte, because I used to really love vanilla lattes, but then they have so much sugar. As soon as I stopped drinking them, I think I lost like 20 pounds or something. I was like, wow, these are a lot of calories. But someone left one at the outside of my hotel room door, and I was just, first I was like, oh my God, how sweet. Then I was like, oh, how did they know what hotel room I'm in? And then I'm like, oh, should I be drinking that latte? I went on a whole journey. So I didn't drink the latte, but it was really nice. But I thought, like, I'm kind of freaked out now. Somebody knows exactly what room I'm in. So but there are so many really sweet things people do. One time somebody knitted me a gigantic appa. And I felt so bad because so many fans bring you these big giant gifts and it's so sweet, but we can't get it back on the plane. But I didn't have the heart to tell the girl. She had probably spent months knitting this appa. So I was like, thank you so much. I love it. And it was gorgeous. So I was like hugging it. I took a bunch of pictures with her. And I threw in some, pictures. And but then I'm like, what am I going to do with this appa? I can't throw it away because it's gorgeous. But then this girl about 4 people later was like, I just lost my dog and I've been so sad. This has been the happiest thing that's happened to me. And my dog used to sleep with me every night and I miss my dog. And I was like, oh my God, you're getting an appa. Do you love appa? She was like, oh my God, I love appa. I gave her the appa and she was just in tears. And then later on she wrote to me, she's like, I sleep with appa all the time and I feel my dog with me. And it was just like beautiful circle moment. So anyway, I'm going to cry in this interview. It was sweet. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to call it there. We need to get you your photo up.
Okay, right when the tears started. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is Kari Walgren, and you're watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like and subscribe. Plus, remember to have fun and follow your fandom.